My name is Devin Howe, and throughout this presentation, I'm going to be walking you through some various aspects of recruitment. We're going to be talking about the very basics of recruitment. We're going to be talking about some recruitment policies, and then some practices, and then the whole overall process. Additionally, we're going to go into more detail about some of the strategies that go along with recruiting. Currently, I'm a recruiter at Cerner, and I've been doing that for about 6 months. I specialize in the sourcing area of recruitment, and I think some of my insights might be valuable to this presentation. Here we have your very basic definitions of recruitment. We have your standard recruitment definition as well as your effective recruitment definition. I'm going to go ahead and discuss why these are important and how they relate to organizations. The standard definition of recruitment, according to Google, is basically finding new people to join your organization or cause, which is really recruitment at its very bare bones basic. Effective recruitment, on the other hand, is the process of finding the best qualified candidate within or outside of an organization in a timely and cost-effective manner. Now we're going to be discussing why recruitment is so important to organizations and why it's important to differentiate between standard recruitment and effective recruitment. So recruiting is a very time-consuming and costly effort. Not to mention, it's also a strategic imperative for organizations. A lot of companies are targeting the same talent pool, so it's important that we focus our efforts on hiring the right people. When organizations choose the right people for the right job and train them well and treat them appropriately, they're going to stay longer, they're going to produce better results, they're going to be happier. And that's going to, in the long run, that's going to provide a better benefit for the company as well as reducing cost of turnover. To give you an example of just how expensive recruiting can be for some organizations, a typical headhunter or external recruiter's compensation for hiring one successful candidate is usually 20% of that candidate's salary. So when we look into more senior level executives and higher levels, someone that makes roughly $100,000, organizations looking at paying nearly $20,000 on average for that candidate. So with that in mind, it is important that organizations are using effective recruitment. They just can't afford not to. Simply put, given the time and the money it takes and the effect of hiring wrong candidates versus right candidates, organizations need to practice effective recruiting. Now we're going to be discussing various policies that have to do with recruiting. These policies are passive non-discrimination versus active non-discrimination, pure diversity-based recruitment, diversity-based recruitment with preferential hiring, and hard quotas. I'll go into detail about what these all mean and discuss why they are important to organizations. Now we're going to be taking a look at passive non-discrimination versus active non-discrimination. Passive non-discrimination is a stance a company might take that basically treats everyone, treats all races and sexes equally when it comes to hiring, pay, and promotions. There's no real payoff to passive non-discrimination. It just is making sure that they aren't being discriminatory when it comes to those procedures. Active non-discrimination, on the other hand, is a lot more hands-on for organizations. So organizations that are exercising active non-discrimination are going to be employing a wide range of practices that will help them avoid discrimination. Just a couple examples, a company may use sensitivity training with their managers and other employees to help them be able to work with a diverse workforce, and they will also be eliminating different procedures that might have adverse impact on certain demographics, such as certain tests and things like that. So the key difference here is active non-discrimination is a lot more effective in an organization and helps them avoid discrimination, but it also helps them diversify their organization, which is going to impact the organization in a positive way. Pure diversity-based recruitment is focused on expanding the candidate pool to help organizations avoid exclusion of certain demographics, both past and present. So the idea here is to basically open up the candidate pool to include a more diverse group of potential candidates. Diversity-based recruitment with preferential hiring is a type of hiring practice that companies use to help them further diversify their organization. So it is a soft quota, and basically it's the preferential hiring practice of hiring minorities and females. So companies that are made up primarily of older white males may want to employ this just so that they can have a focus on diversifying their company and their workforce. Hard quotas is an order for an organization to hire a specific number or a specific proportion of female workers and minority workers. So it is comparable to diversity-based recruitment with preferential hiring, except now we're looking at a specific number that an organization is looking for. So once again, this is also helping organizations further diversify their workforce, and it's giving them a little bit more of a concrete focus on the specific numbers that they're looking for. So as we can see from the graph below, this is a graph of 2015 U.S. demographics, and this focuses on the American workforce. So right now, 62% of Caucasian Americans account for the workforce, 15% African American, 17% Hispanic American, 2% Native American, and 4% other. So right there we can see that the American workforce is disproportionate. But the recruitment policies that we just went over do help to curb some of those disproportions. Active non-discrimination, pure diversity-based recruitment with preferential hiring, and hard quotas all lend themselves to creating a more diverse workforce, which is going to be better for each and every organization that chooses to employ these recruitment policies. Now we're going to be examining the internal versus external labor markets. So first off, we'll look at the internal labor market. So the internal labor market is comprised of three elements. So the first element is formal and informal practices that determine how jobs are organized. Second is methods for choosing among candidates. And the third is procedures through which potential candidates are generated. So with internal labor markets, entry-level positions are often going to be filled with external candidates. However, once we move up the ranks and we start getting into senior level positions, internal labor markets will tend to fill those higher level positions with candidates from within the organization. Another interesting fact with internal labor markets are wages are going to be determined internally rather than externally, and they will be rather free of market pressure. With external labor markets, workers are going to be moving rather fluidly between various organizations, and a lot of times their wages are going to be highly impacted by market pressures. So the key difference between internal and external labor markets are internal labor markets are going to be promoting within. They're going to be filling higher positions with people that are already within the organization. External labor markets are going to be filled with workers from other organizations, and those wages are going to be highly impacted by the market pressure, and that could be a good thing or that could be a bad thing. But those are the key differences of external versus internal labor markets. Now I'm going to walk you through the first 4 steps of the recruitment process. The first being job analysis, the second, strategic workforce planning, third, recruitment, and fourth, initial screening. So, with job analysis, organizations are looking to get a basic understanding of the position itself. They are looking to determine the specifications of the people and the tasks that they need completed in this position, as well as the requirements of the job. So with the strategic workforce planning stage, specifications of human resource requirements are going to be determined there. So we may look at the number of people we need, the salaries needed, and things like that. In the recruitment stage, that's where companies start making their initial contact with candidates. A lot of in the early stage of recruitment, a lot of that's just basically building your candidate pool. That's kind of what I do at Cerner. So basically, I do a lot of sourcing. I'm reaching out to a lot of people I feel that would be a good fit in the organization, and I basically build a candidate pool for recruiters to kind of pick from, and then select the best talent. So a lot of recruitment, like I said, is just building that talent pool. Matter of fact, that is the end result, the product that the Casio book does specify, and it's to basically build a pool of qualified candidates. A lot of organizations have now reverted to third-party sourcing as well. So companies like LinkedIn, Career Builder, Indeed, things like that. Those companies are now partnering with organizations to help increase candidate pools, maybe even help them diversify their candidate pools, depending on what kind of policies they want to adhere to or use in their recruiting efforts. So moving on from the recruitment stage, we get into the initial screening. So the end result of the initial screening is basically to establish a smaller pool of candidates that are more qualified than the main pool and perhaps fit better into the organization. So we're basically just trying to find the best fits for the organization at this point. A lot of what we do here, we go through recommendations, reference checks, application forms, and then we do, basically some high-level, interviews, asking them some behavioral questions, situational questions, and things like that. So this is something I do at Cerner. Once I reach out to different people, I build the pool of potential candidates, and then once I speak with them, I start kind of getting a feel for who I want to move forward to the next process. So after this initial screen, that I do at Cerner, a lot of times I'm looking for whether or not do I think they're going to be successful in the company, do I think they're a good fit in the company culture and things like that. And then I also try to determine whether or not they are interested in working for the company. It is a two-sided it's a two-sided process. So just because I feel that they're going to fit in the company doesn't mean they're automatically going to feel that they fit into our company. So really, for me, the initial screening is basically just hammering out who's going to be successful or who is likely to be successful in the company, and then moving them forward into the interview process where we start to, where we actually begin the selection process of the new employees. The last part of the recruitment process I'm going to cover is the actual selection process. So this process is the process of selecting the best candidates out of the smaller pool that the initial screens produced. So here we would be examining some of their work skills, some of their more finite qualifications. We'd be going through some of their situational questions and behavioral questions and things like that. We'd also be examining some of their work samples and personality inventories and things like that. The idea behind this section is to basically, once we select them, they become new employees, and then we begin them in the onboarding process. Now this brings us into the diversity-oriented recruiting. So here we're going to discuss what it is exactly, why it's important, and how organizations can do it. So diversity-oriented recruiting is basically just what it sounds like. It's basically focusing on recruiting a diverse workforce. And so the real focus on this slide is why it's important and how does a company do it. So, how diversity-oriented recruiting can be accomplished with a company is by having the company use women and underrepresented minority groups in their recruiting and interviewing process. So, having minorities and women interview, having them go on recruiting trips, and having them appear in advertisements will help the whole diversity-oriented recruiting process. So that's a couple ways that companies can do that. The diversity-oriented recruiting process is important because companies are trying to attract a diverse workforce, and it is really important that the first point of contact that a lot of talent is seeing is the HR department. So it's important that that the HR department is representative of your company, and it is important that it is a diverse representation. And it makes a diverse talent pool feel far more comfortable interviewing, makes them feel a lot more confident in actually joining an organization. Because, like I said before, hiring is a two-way process. So not only do companies want the talent, but talent has to want the companies as well. So having a diverse HR staff and recruiting staff is going to be important because you're basically going to be attracting a diverse talent pool.